Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I hope you're having a good Monday. Hope you're having a good start to the week, enjoying some sunshine, and have got over any hangovers post-football last night. It's an absolute pleasure to be joined in the kitchen today by the wonderful JoJo Fraser. I'm very excited. I kind of feel like JoJo's a long-standing friend because I listen to your podcast every week. So I feel like we have a chat every week. But alas, no. JoJo and I have met a couple of times at events and also had the absolute pleasure of JoJo did a promo video for me way back. God, that must have been 2 or 3 years ago now, I think, actually, was it?
Time flies.
I know. So it's an absolute pleasure to have her here in the kitchen with me today, and I'm delighted to be cooking up a storm together. I follow JoJo on Instagram and love the joy for cooking and food. I actually absolutely adore watching your stories when you and Bonnie are getting busy in the kitchen. So I thought, actually, I'm going to pass the hot seat over to JoJo this evening, and she is going to be head chef. So I will be guiding JoJo and you guys, if you choose to cook along with us tonight, or whether you're going to do it another time. We're going to go through, I'm going to guide you through a roasted rhubarb salad recipe. So you might be thinking, interesting. But I asked JoJo what her kind of ingredient of the moment was, if you like, favourite ingredient, what you're cooking with right now. And she said rhubarb and cinnamon. So any normal person would probably go to a dessert recipe. However, I was like, I like a challenge, and we did sweet last week. We did sweet potato brownies last week. So I wanted to do a savoury recipe this week. So challenge myself to a savoury rhubarb recipe. So alas, roasted rhubarb salad it is. And it's interesting but surprisingly delicious. It's got a wonderful kind of combination of sour, sweet and spice. So it's a treat. It's a treat. You should try it. So before we get into the cooking, I just wanted to say a huge thanks to JoJo for coming into the kitchen today, but also for everything that you do. I love your work. Love tuning into your podcast. I think you do such awesome work in terms of really promoting just a bit of more honesty and openness and inclusiveness, which I think is long overdue, and I think it's really refreshing to listen to you, and you're, like I say, you're kind of like my friend every week that I'm thinking, yes, actually I need to take more of her advice. So it's really powerful stuff, and I think it's just it's just so great. And also for sharing your own journey. I think that probably has helped so many more people than you realise. So I think it's just awesome what you're doing. And honoured to have you here. So
thank you so much. It's lovely to be in your kitchen, and you know I love your food and your ideas, so it's really nice to be here.
So let's get cooking.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So we'll go through the ingredients as normal, just so anyone who is, whether you're cooking along with me right now or whether you're going to do it later, just so you know what you need. So we have 200 grams of rhubarb. Now, that's frozen rhubarb. Bizarrely, I couldn't find it fresh because it is in season right now. So I'm a bit disappointed I couldn't find it fresh, but that's a good thing to note. Frozen fruit is an absolute winner. So do not shy away from frozen fruit. I tend to have my freezer stocked with all sorts, frozen berries, frozen mango, frozen rhubarb, all sorts of things. And what it allows you to do is get much more variety of fruit into your diet. So you can kind of, I think when you buy it fresh, you tend to buy, punnet strawberries and some apples or whatever you do, and then you don't get the same variation. So it's quite cool to just stock your freezer full of frozen fruit, and then you can get all that mixed up throughout the week. So we've got 200 grams of frozen rhubarb. We've got 150 grams of quinoa. You could use rice or couscous or any other grain in there. I'm using quinoa today because there's not much other protein in the dish. So quinoa is a great complete protein if you're eating a plant-based diet. So it's good to have it in there and make sure we're upping our protein in there. But if you were adding another protein source of beans or tempeh, or if you're not plant-based, some meat or anything, then you could just substitute that out for rice or something else as well. So completely up to you. We've got 60 grams of curly kale. Believe it or not, that is just 60 grams. It looks like a lot. Curly kale is awesome for a salad that you are kind kind of prepping in advance and you want it to go further than just one day, because it holds its own a little bit better. If you're to put in like spinach or rocket or any other sort of leafy green, it kind of tends to wilt or go a bit slimy or wilted by the time you eat it if you're sort of mixing it into a wet salad. So curly kale is great for holding its own in a salad like that. We've got 125 grams of cherry tomatoes, which just are in season and taste amazing right now. 50 grams of flaked almonds. You could swap that out with walnuts or any other nut if you like, but almonds pair beautifully with the rhubarb and orange, so that's going to be tasty. We've then also got half an avocado, which we're going to slice up at the top. We've got an orange, which is going to be partly for garnish and partly for the juice that's going to go into the dressing. And then we've got balsamic vinegar, olive oil, maple syrup, cinnamon and salt, and that's all for the dressing. And then we've also got some chili sauce there as well for those of you who like it hot.
Oh yeah.
So let's dive in.
Okay.
Right, so if you just pop I'll just take this off so we can get some room to get cooking. Try to not drop all the ingredients everywhere like I normally do. And so if you haven't already if you're cooking along, get your oven on at 180, and we will roast the rhubarb. So if you just if you're using fresh rhubarb, then chop it into 1 centimetre sort of sliced chunks, and then pop it on a roasting tray. So we're using frozen, so we can just whack it right on there straight away, which makes for a nice easy life. It's the other benefit of frozen fruit. And then rather than just drizzling it with oil, we're going to just pop it down, it's fine. Rather than just drizzling it with oil, we're going to mix together, and just got a little glass ramekin in there or a jar or whatever you've got. We're going to mix together a tablespoon of olive oil, half a tablespoon of balsamic vinegar, and a teaspoon of maple syrup. I'm just going to mix all that together in a bowl first so that kind of you get a good consistency, and then just drizzle that over the baking tray. So just drizzle that over the baking tray so it you get the kind of consistency that covers it all. So first step done. So yeah, we've got a tablespoon of olive oil, half a tablespoon of balsamic, half of that. Perfect. There'll be more balsamic going into the dressing. And then half a teaspoon of maple syrup. So Jojo, benefit of doing this here, do not worry about keeping things tidy.
Not my strength actually.
Me neither, so go for it.
Just throw it all over the place.
And then if you just mix that with a fork, just give it a whisk around, and then pour that over the rhubarb. Yeah, just drizzle it over. And then give it a bit of a sugar around so it's all nicely coated. Hello Becky, good to have you join us.
Okay.
Yeah, just
Is
give
that
it a good,
looking?
yeah, give it a good mix around, that's perfect. And then just anyone who's got a smaller baking tray, make sure it's all in one layer so it's not kind of sitting on top of each other and stewing. Mm-hmm. It's actually got room to roast.
Nice.
So pop that in the oven.
Uh-huh.
It's got a child lock on it, sorry that fools everyone.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And then that just needs about 10 minutes. So we'll go in after 5 and give it a flip, make sure it's roasting on both sides, and jobs are good in.
Fabulous.
Next up, let's get the quinoa cooking. Sorry. So for the quinoa, we've got a pot of water on there. My rule with quinoa is double and then some of the quinoa to the water. So if you just put the water on to boil first, let me do that actually because my cooker's a bit of a precious one. But before we actually put it into the water, what we're going to do is toast it. So if you put the quinoa into the dry frying pan, and what that does is it kind of brings out the almost nutty flavour of the quinoa. So if you just kind of let that toast for about 2 minutes, you don't want it to change colour, but the best way that I can kind of describe when it's ready is basically it starts to smell almost like toasting grains. I know quinoa is not actually a grain, but it starts to sort of have a bit of a toasting smell. So if you just make sure it's in a nice flat layer and it's all getting some heat, and then give that a couple of minutes, and then we're going to pop it into the water once that's boiling.
Fabulous.
So that's a wee top tip on quinoa. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't bother doing that if I was doing it eating it with a stew or a curry or something like that, because it doesn't really matter so much. But for something that you really want to let the quinoa shine, it's worth doing that.
Before, so that's quite,
yeah, it's a good one for salads actually. So we'll let that do its thing. We've got our water boiling. We'll just let the quinoa just for a couple of minutes. We'll hopefully start to smell it and not burn it. And yeah, so Jojo, like I said, I absolutely love watching your stories on Instagram because you just seem to have this total joy for cooking. Have you always had that? You're a bit, I don't know whether you'd agree with this, but I certainly think you're a bit of a foodie. You know, you're always either cooking or trying something new, eating something new, or a restaurant or whatever. Have you always been like that, or have you sort of got into the world of cooking?
You know, my mum said, like, I've got 2 older brothers, and she would give me the veggies and everything, and I would eat it all. So I was, always up for trying different things, and I just love food. It's always been like a celebration for our family. You know, it's something that's quite sacred when you make a meal and you sort of really take time. I'm also quite well known for making noises around the table sometimes, you know, like
what kind of noises?
If I'm out for dinner, you know, maybe a bit moaning and groaning, I need to hold that down, but I just really get into it. I love flavour, and I love, you know, just the sort of social aspect of it, and having fun in the kitchen as well, and playing around with different ingredients. And I'm told that I'm a very easily pleased dinner guest as well. So although I like nice things, and I've been to quite a few Michelin star restaurants and stuff too, so I do like fancy food, but also I love comfort food, and just, you know, doesn't have to be super fancy all the time. I'm just, as long as there's nice flavour in there, then I'm really happy.
Yeah, that quinoa is probably just about good. So if we you start to smell that.
Do you want me to stir it at all?
So if you give it a bit of a scoosh around and check that you don't really want the colour to change. So if you just check whether it's starting to change colour, then it'll be good to go.
Okay.
I think that's probably enough. It only takes a couple of minutes, so it's just really to let it release its flavours.
Fab.
So if you turn off the heat there,
and
then pop that into the pan of water. Sorry, they've all got, that's that one.
Okay.
And then just pop it into the pan of water, which is now nicely boiling.
Okay.
Is that gonna,
oh dear.
Sorry, I should have...
Is there a method for doing this?
No. That was a bad idea, wasn't it? I didn't think that one through. I'm just going to stick my fingers into the burning hot quinoa.
Sorry about that.
No.
Slight spill. Could have been worse. I could have just gone for it everywhere.
So that's gone into the boiling water. Turn that down and let that simmer for 10 minutes or so. So that's I think that's a top trick with quinoa. Actually, it makes it just release its flavours. It's kind of like toasting grain, isn't it? It's just got a bit of an extra flavour to it. So whilst that's, I shouldn't have said turn the ring off actually, because now we're going to toast our almonds. So we've got some flaked almonds there. If you don't already have them flaked, then you know, if you're using like chunked almonds or walnuts, then that's all fine too. But it's good to, again, toasting them just kind of releases the flavour a little bit. So again, no oil or anything, just toast them on a medium-low heat for 2 to 3 minutes again. So excuse me, I'm just going to put that back on for you.
Smell that rhubarb.
Just pop them back in there. Oh yeah, got the rhubarb coming out already, yeah. So we're just we do want these ones to change colour ever so slightly. We just want our almonds to brown slightly. So we'll let them do their thing.
Okay.
And then next up we can make our dressing. So the dressing is, again, if you just use a little dish that we've got there, and then into the dressing we're going to put 2 tablespoons of balsamic. 2 tablespoons of balsamic. Sorry, I'm taking everything away from you.
No worries.
2 tablespoons of balsamic. What we're putting here, sorry, 1 tablespoon of oil, olive oil. And quarter teaspoon of, sorry, what am I saying? One tablespoon of oil, yeah. And then quarter teaspoon of cinnamon, which is already measured out in the purple one.
Exactly. So
You can just stick that in. Quarter teaspoon of salt, which isn't measured out. I've put too much in there, so measure that, otherwise we're going to have a salt explosion. I don't think I've got a quarter, actually, I've just got a half, so. Alison, thank you. She said excited to be on YouTube. Alison has been pushing me to get on YouTube for ages, actually, so. Finally taking your advice, so thank you, here we are. Is rhubarb particularly good for you? Do you know, actually, I haven't really looked into the health benefits of rhubarb, to be honest, but I'd imagine it's full of antioxidants and all the other good stuff that most fruits are, so I can't imagine that it's going to be anything but full of goodness, no. All right, so what have we got in there? We've got balsamic, oil, cinnamon, salt, and then juice of an orange. So if you slice the orange, keep a slice back for the garnish.
Okay.
So yeah, half it, keep a slice off one half, and then...
Just one wee slice like this?
Yeah, it's just for garnish, so whatever, whether you want to do a wedge or whatever, and then just juice, the rest of the juice.
Just stick it straight in?
Yeah, stick it into the pot. So this dressing is kind of like, it's got the acidity from the balsamic, it's got the kind of fat from the oil and the sweetness from the orange. So it's a flavour, good nice combinations, which balances the sourness from the rhubarb.
Ah.
So you could also put some chilli in this if you like as well, but I've kept the chilli as the sort of like some chilli sauce for the end. So for those who aren't so keen on spice, you can kind of take it or leave it.
Okay. So you can add chilli in at this stage with like the seeds?
Yeah, you could add in some chilli powder there as well if you wanted to make it, or some Tabasco would work quite nicely as well, because Tabasco's got the same acidity as balsamic.
Okay.
Oh, I think our almonds are
they're
toasting nicely.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when they go that nice sort of golden brown, that's perfect.
Yeah.
You can smell them now as well, can't you?
Yeah, smell good.
Okay, so this is a super simple one actually. So we've got the rhubarb in, dressing made, almonds toasted, quinoa cooking. Might be worth just checking on the rhubarb at this stage to see if it needs a flip. Sorry, that child lock.
Just up the way.
Yeah, got it? Yeah, there we go. So there's we've got
The oven glove.
all the it's funny, someone else cooking in your kitchen, you forget to give all these sort of like handy hints on where anything is. So if you take that out and pop it on the board, and then just get the slice, and we can just give it a bit of a jiggle around so you can kind of flip it and use the other side, let it brown on the other side as well.
Okay.
Yeah, perfect. So you want it to roast, not stew. So keep it kind of in a single layer, just flip it over so it can start to brown. It's looking like it's already pretty well cooked actually.
Yeah, it's looking good. Looks like it need much longer.
So just pop it back in for a couple minutes, maybe not even a couple minutes. It's probably, test of it being done I suppose is, it was still quite tough, but yeah, we're nearly there. So just give it another minute I think. Oh, that smells good. You can smell the rhubarb and the almonds.
Nice.
Delicious. And how's the quinoa coming along? Just hottering away there, lovely.
Do you want me to give it a wee stir?
It's looking good.
Okay.
So now we can just prep the salady bits. So can slice our cherry tomatoes in half, or you can leave them whole if you want, to be honest, it doesn't matter. You could do half, you can do a bit of both. And then also slice our avocado for the top. We're going to pop the tomatoes into the salad, and we're going to just slice the avocado and have that on top. So you can just get that ready. If your quinoa's bubbling away, I'm just going to add a little bit of extra water there to make sure it doesn't stick to the bottom. Alexis, I actually got the rhubarb from Farm Foods. Believe it or not, I actually had a real trouble finding rhubarb. I expected it to be super easy because it is still in season, but unfortunately I couldn't find it. I tried Lidl, Tesco and Tatty Shaw's on Leith Walk if you're from Edinburgh, but none of them had it. So that's why I went frozen. But actually you can get frozen in I got it from Farm Foods, like I say, but I think you can get it in Asda and Tesco. The Tesco I tried didn't have it frozen either, actually. So it turns out rhubarb's a bit more difficult than I thought to get, but which is a shame because it's local and in season. It always annoys me when ingredients that are sort of local and in season you can't find, but hey ho. So yeah, Jojo, I was also thinking in terms of I love it when you're saying that you love food and you love sharing and you love, it's kind of like, part of the joy of getting everyone around the dinner table and stuff. I think it's so lovely the way that, I don't know whether there's been any encouragement of this at all actually, or whether Bonnie's just naturally a foodie as well. But it's just lovely seeing her getting involved in getting cooking as well.
Oh, Bonnie loves it, and she just comes to life in the kitchen. She actually made me breakfast in bed the other week. It was it was an omelette, but plant-based with ingredients. So it was like tomatoes, and she just loves her veggies. And it's like a bonding process, and it's like a little bit of mindful cooking together. This one's a wee bit. This avocado's quite nice and soft.
You can never quite tell when you feel it from the outside if it's really a soft one or not. What I do with the avocado is just slice it or chunk it or something. It's just going to go on the top, so however it's going to work. I think she's just born to be like actually I feel like we should have got her on. She should be doing my job. She's born to be like a TV chef host or something, isn't she?
Presenter. She's just so natural behind the camera, and I just love it. It's like our bonding process, and we just, we're really into our food. In fact, all our family are really into our food, so it's quite nice. I think you live a happy life if you're into your food, right?
Yeah. It's funny though, I was just saying before we came on, there's a fine line with food, I think, of it feeling like obviously you have to cook, you have to eat, So there's an element of cooking being a chore. Yeah. But it can be a bit of a fine line as to whether you feel it's a chore or whether you feel it's like something that you get real joy out of, and it's easy to kind of it's really nice if you can find that love in it. So it's a funny one, isn't it?
I remember when Charlie was like 1 or 2 and cooking was a nightmare because he'd be pulling at my feet. I'm hungry, and like the whole process. I remember feeling like I really missed cooking when he was that age. And I was looking forward to being able to cook with them, like they were both old enough to really enjoy it. So today when we were baking and stuff, I was like, this is actually really nice because they're actually helping and they're enjoying it, and it's chilled, it's relaxing.
Yeah.
Whereas there are moments in life that cooking, if you've got young kids at your feet, or if you've had a really busy day and perhaps you just want to slump in front of the sofa, then, it can be hard, right? But I actually find like a nice cooking session can really like chill us out. It's almost like a form of meditation.
That's exactly what I was going to say actually. And I was actually, like I was saying before, I find cooking can be totally meditative if you're just like kind of playing in the kitchen and enjoying creating and just kind of no stress about who it's for or what you're doing it for. I think sometimes when you're cooking for a purpose or trying to impress or something like that, that's when it can get a bit stressful and not quite as joyful. But for me, I probably don't actually cook as much as I pretend I do. Not pretend I do, but you probably all think that I'm in the kitchen cooking something every night. But I don't actually cook that much, but I need to make sure that at least once a week I get that kind of freedom to play in the kitchen. Because if I don't get that, then I start to resent it almost. And I don't know whether that's because it's kind of my job as well, but yeah, I think it's really important to make sure you get that time to do it, and it's kind of like that space, like almost like your wild swimming as well. It's a place where you can kind of, it's a very different thing, but it's just a place that you can kind of just chill out and be.
Yeah, and just feel like in the moment and just calm. Although without the cold water, obviously, like the wild swimming, I just love.
Very, very different.
That's a wee bit more invigorating in the sense that you're like, your whole body's just buzzing. Although if you put some music on, you maybe get a little bit more of the mojo injection there too, music and food and whatever.
Yeah, I think so.
Dance around the kitchen. It does make a difference. If I take the time to put some tunes on, whatever we're in the mood for, I feel like, you get good vibes to it.
Yeah, I love it on a Sunday actually, when you're not necessarily cooking for a specific meal, you're just kind of cooking. Well, that's what I tend to do on a Sunday anyway. I just kind of almost like clear out the fridge into pots and pans. You know, I make whatever's left in the fridge on a Sunday. Yeah. And I love the kind of freedom you get that. I just put the tunes on and do some, it makes whatever it makes, and I quite often don't know what it's going to make.
Yeah, and you can do a little bit twerking as you shop and get the steps in if you've got one of those watches.
Exactly.
I just love it. I love it.
Right, let's get our rhubarb out before it starts overcooking.
Rightio.
Oh, that bloody... It's become second nature to me, but it's actually a real annoyance. Right. How's it looking?
Looks like it's done, yeah?
Say so.
Oops.
Oh, you just bring
just a little. It's all okay. Right. Where will I put this?
Yeah, just pop it on top of the cooker, actually, if you've got space there. Try and get some stuff out your way.
Fabulous.
And if we check the quinoa, see how that's coming on, and then we're probably getting into a good place.
Fabulous. Yeah, it's cooking away nicely. I remember overcooking quinoa, and it was, just really like soggy.
Yeah. I actually think if you read the packet of quinoa, if you read a packet of quinoa, it says cook for 20 minutes, which I don't think it needs to be cooked that long.
Yeah.
Maybe if it's simmering really slowly, but I think this will be, it really only takes, if it's simmering quite vigorously, I'd say 10 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, that looks...
Give it a taste and see what you think.
Looks nice.
Are we good, or we need a bit longer?
I think it's good.
Yeah?
Perfect.
All right. Let's drain then. If you pass it over, we're in awkwardly in cook along corner where I don't have a sink, so I'm just going to drain it into a dish. And what I would do, if you are cooking along with us, is drain it and rinse it under cold water to cool it. Because it's going into a salad, if it's all still hot, it will wilt things. But we're just gonna roll with that here tonight, because that's what we have to do. Cook along corner. And then, so you got your quinoa there. Yours will be nice and cold once you've run it under cold water. And then if you add the dressing to it, which we've pre-mixed, which is what's in that? We've got olive oil, balsamic vinegar, orange juice, cinnamon and salt. You add that through and then give it a bit of a spoon. Give that a mix through so your quinoa's covered in this gorgeous taste. And then to that we can add our cherry tomatoes.
Smells are coming out.
And we can also add our toasted almond flakes into there.
Okay. Just
chuck them all in, yeah. And then give it a good mix. Yeah. Lovely bright tomatoes in there, looking good. Careful with your quinoa as well, to make sure that a lot of the time when you're cooking quinoa you can just boil the water out of it, but when you're putting it into a salad like this, try to make sure you do get as much moisture out of it as possible, otherwise it goes kind of like a bit claggy. That's my sort of favourite word, I think, right now. I always use that.
Claggy.
And then we can pop the kale into that as well and give that a mix through. I would recommend cooling your quinoa before you do this normally because it will stop the kale from wilting. But like I say, kale is a good one because it does hold its own a bit more than spinach or rocket or anything. So yeah, just get all that. My bowl a bit small.
Yeah, it's all good.
And get all that lovely and mixed through. Yeah.
Nice. Smells so good.
I love curly kale.
Yeah.
I think it's underrated in salads. I think crispy kale kind of made it big, didn't it? It was very popular for a while, and I love crispy kale. But actually, I think it's so good in a salad because I kind of have a bit of a fear of wilted leaves. As soon as you see wilted leaves in a salad, you're like, oh no, it doesn't look good. But kale.
It does, as you say, it holds its own,
Yeah.
right? Nice, there we go.
Yeah. Marvellous. And then to that, we can add, what have we got left? We can add our rhubarb.
Right, and is some of the avocado to go in it too?
The avocado is going to go on the top once we serve it
on
up.
the top,
So
okay.
if we put the rhubarb in, and then I think we've got, yeah, that's everything.
Fabulous.
Super easy. And then we can plate it up. So you want the quinoa, the rhubarb you don't kind of want it to be stewed like you don't want it to be falling apart or mushy, but you want to try and keep it as whole as possible. So kind of when you're mixing that through, be a bit gentler with it. So it keeps its shape a bit more. But it should have a lovely flavour with the maple syrup, the balsamic vinegar and the oil. Hopefully. I was going to do a curry rather than a salad, actually.
Yeah, I was thinking, because you can get like mangoes and curry,
Yeah.
and obviously other fruit and stuff, but I'd never had a rhubarb one, so I was like,
Yeah, but I don't know, I just thought since the sun's shining,
Yeah.
salad sort of felt more fitting. So I thought we'd go down that road.
Yeah, definitely, and it's a nice one out there today. Oh yeah, hot. Cool.
Fab. So, do the honours.
Plate
Serve
it
her
up, yeah?
Yeah. So I'll give you, if you pop the plate on the board, and then you can
Just try and get a nice...
just get a nice full bowl. This is dinner, so
Find it.
put in more than you'd eat necessarily. It's all for the hero shot, for the photo. Look at those colours. So it's super simple. You know, if you've got a bag of frozen rhubarb in the freezer, then this really doesn't take too much. You know, you've got a bag of frozen rhubarb in the freezer, you've got some quinoa, cherry toms, you know, it's ready to go.
How's that portion-wise?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say this kind of makes 2 to 3 people, but depends how much or bigger or little your appetites are.
Is this going to go on
Yeah,
top?
just pop it on top, and then a wee garnish of orange as well. So you've got some protein from the quinoa, you've got your healthy fats with the avocado, you've got all your nutrients from the tomatoes and the rhubarb, just full of goodness and full of flavour.
Fabulous. And
Looks
then look at this.
delicious. Thank you, Becky. Can you smell it?
Look at that. Yummy. Looks really good. Smells amazing.
Super easy, and that actually, ours maybe not because we have not cooled the quinoa, but that would actually last in the fridge for 2 to 3 days. So I would say that you add the avocado fresh on top every time you eat it, obviously, otherwise that will brown. But if you cooled the quinoa and then just popped that in a Tupperware and popped in the fridge, then yeah, that would last 2 or 3 days, which is super easy if you're struggling for sort of lunch ideas or running around like a headless chicken at lunchtime, which is so often the case. It just makes super easy. So should we taste it?
Yeah, absolutely.
You be the taste test queen and let me know whether it's up to scratch.
So with the garnish, do you squirt it over? Or...
Yeah, squirt it over, or it's just a bit of colour to make it look good
the
as well,
chilli,
but-
we forgot about the
Oh,
chilli.
the chilli sauce, yeah, good reminder.
What do you want to do with that?
Completely up to you in terms of how much you like a bit of spice, but I would, you need to pop up the top. And it could be sriracha, it could be Tabasco, whichever your preference is, but I would just do a kind of good squirt all over it kind of thing.
A little bit of
but it's
drizzle.
Totally up to you in terms of how much you like your spice. But I do think that it pairs really quite nicely with the sweetness and sourness of this one.
Fabulous.
So yeah, let's have a taste.
Okay, jump in. That's really good.
What do you think when you get involved?
Oh, the flavour. Oh yeah.
Kind of interesting combo, isn't it? But the spice, the sweetness, sourness, kind of works.
It really works. And the cinnamon as well goes really good.
And it's just 1/4 teaspoon, you don't need much.
Yeah.
But just
I
enough
love
to kind of...
Love the balance of that. And the little, I've not had an almond yet actually. That's really tasty. I've never ever had a rhubarb salad.
Will you have a rhubarb salad again?
I would
That
make
is the
this.
question.
It's really, really good. Sometimes you just need some ideas.
I know.
You can sometimes go a bit, so you just need a little bit of inspiration. But when you know it works.
It's very easy to get stuck in a rut, I think, especially if you're kind of like trying to eat a little bit differently. If you've kind of got yourself in a bit of a rut or you're trying to change your diet, it's quite easy to just have a rotation of 3 or 4 meals and then you don't really break out of your norm.
Yeah, yeah, and then it just gets a bit, ugh.
Yeah.
No, I love it. I love it when you get a new dish and then you're like, right, we'll add that. We'll try and have it once a month or, something.
Yeah. And that's the thing, I think once you get a new dish and once you've cooked it once, then, because it can be a bit stressful if you've got a busy dinner time and you've got kids running around and you're trying to get it on the table for if you're kind of cooking to a deadline, it can be quite stressful. So experimenting with new recipes, as much as it can be fun, it's not always possible. Like it can add extra time and stress that you don't need. Yeah. But what I try and do is, once a week. If maybe it's not even that. Maybe it's once a fortnight. But if you just try a new recipe every now and again, then you slowly kind of build up that kind of repertoire of tasty recipes that you can just become your go-to.
Yeah, and for shopping lists as well. All right, we know we like this, so let's put that on and pairing up dishes, with curly kale or whatever it is you're using, so that you can be a bit more organised and you're not wasting food. Totally. That annoys me. Why have we bought that? What are we making with it? Oh, I just thought I'd get it. It was on offer, but it's not in any of our dishes, so it's just going to get thrown out at the end of the week if it's, not lasting that long. So.
Exactly. What's the go-tos on your family shopping list then? What are the must-haves?
Well, it's been rhubarb because I've been obsessed with making my own homemade rhubarb compote for like breakfast, for like porridge or with Greek yogurt or, family.
Porridge. I bet that's good.
It's really good. Or, I'll put a bit of cinnamon over it because it goes really well. So rhubarb would be quite hardcore, but go-tos, we do a lot of stir fries, do a lot of like spicy noodle dishes at the moment with like nuts and lots of chili. Kids don't have as much chili in theirs, obviously. What else? We love Italian, we love gnocchi. So like a nice sort of grilled gnocchi dish. Really into that.
Nice. I'm not a big fan of gnocchi actually because I feel it can be quite like doughy, but I imagine grilled actually that's quite nice.
It gives it a crisp and when you put a bit of effort with the sauce and then maybe some fresh basil over the top, a little bit Parmesan cheese, so we're not fully plant-based if we're doing that, because cheese I think it would be my hardest thing. If I was committing to plant-based, say 100%, I think it would be cheese. A lot of people say that though when they turn vegan, right?
Yeah, they do. And what's your kind of approach? Because I know you're not fully plant-based, but you do love a good fresh veggie. Yeah. What's your kind of approach when it comes to like your do you try to eat a certain way or do you just kind of eat what works and what kind of works for the whole family?
Yeah, like we're probably these annoying flexitarians. Is that what they're called?
I don't think that's annoying at all. I think flexitarians get a bad rep for sitting on the fence, but I actually think it's a really good way to be because you can put too much stress on yourself. I
think it's better than nothing. We do have chats. We were chatting about like beef this morning and my husband like cycled past a cow and he was feeling really bad and I was like, yeah, I do get it. He was like, right, no more steak ever. But we're trying, and a few days a week of just, having more veggies and plant-based meals seems to work for us at the moment. Sometimes we do more, sometimes we do less, depending on what we've got on that week, or, barbecue season. It can be tempting to sort of up your meat intake and things like that. So yeah, but things like, having more veg. Another thing we do is if we got a pack of 2 chicken breasts, we'd maybe use one night between the 4. So that's hardly any, right?
And bulk it up with veggies.
Bulk it up with veggies and nuts sometimes, if it suits the meal. So that's what we've been doing. And so I think, small steps. We can all do, our bit, right? So.
Yeah, and I think that's really great actually, because I think it can be quite daunting. And especially if you're used to, and I think, let's face it, most of us have grown up with the meal being meat, and it starts with meat. You sort of think, what are we having for dinner tonight? And you beef, chicken, lamb, whatever it is, that's kind of how we've grown up.
Yeah.
So it can be quite daunting to sort of say, okay, take that out completely. Yeah. But I think what you just said is so true. If you just you don't necessarily change that mentality, but you just make it predominantly veg with a little bit of meat, then you're doing, you're probably quartering the amount of meat you're eating as a family by doing that. Yeah. And it actually feels quite easy.
Yeah, it's manageable, isn't it? So it's just little hints and tips like that. But we're trying. But we love our food. We love cooking. Always feel better. Yeah. Like when we were away on holiday, there was a lot of, eating out and stuff, and there weren't that many kind of plant-based options. And I think when we got back, we were like, right, we just need lots of vegetables now and salads, and, try and get a bit inventive, because you know what it's like when you eat out a lot and you come back from holiday and you're like, oh, right, we need to get some more nutritious food into us all. But, it was good fun though.
Yeah, I mean, it happens, and I think it's being able to kind of listen to your body and listen to what works for you, and sort of know if you're feeling a bit, it's been a bit much, then as long as you can tune into that and be like, actually, no, I need to change this a little bit now, then I think it's all about healthy balance, isn't it?
All about balance. We need a little bit of balance, definitely.
Totally. And that involves sweet treats.
Yeah, absolutely. We need a little bit of that in our life too.
Yeah. So, awesome. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, JoJo.
I love it.
Thanks for being head chef.
It's amazing. I'm sorry, I was at a different kitchen, out of my comfort zone.
No, not at all.
Try my best.
Did amazingly. Tastes great. Send you home with some.
Delicious.
See what everyone else thinks. So yeah, thanks very much for joining me. JoJo, is there anything else you kind of want to add? Any other questions from the audience?
Questions, putting the audience on the spot.
I know. We've got lots of delish comments, which is good. My mouth is watering, so that's always good. Yeah. It smells amazing in here as well, actually.
It really does smell amazing. Yeah, it's good for the mojo. Proper mojo injections.
Yeah. So for anyone who was cooking along, I'd love to see your photos, love to see how it turned out, or if you make it later, I'd love to see. And for anyone who is a lover of good food but struggling for the time to make it themselves, or can't find needs some time to relax and does not have time to cook, then we're here to help you. New Norm. Check out the menu at newnorm.co.uk. And we have lots of delicious homemade plant-based ready meals that we deliver to your door. So if you're in Edinburgh, order by Thursday for delivery Friday. And if you're in Central Scotland, we're now delivering to the whole of Central Scotland as well. So order by Sunday for delivery on Tuesday. So yes, we can help. Help with your plant-based delicious needs. So next week, we'll be back here, same time, same place, and I'm going to be joined by the lovely Andrew and Agatha from Hatta Cafe. Have you ever been there, JoJo? Hatta. So they opened up on Cannon Mills. It's on Rodney Street.
Oh, great.
In lockdown, so another one of these brave businesses that opened during lockdown, but they seem to be storming it, and actually they've made my weekends. I find myself there most weekends before or after a walk around Inverleith Park. And they do the most amazing porridge. And I am such a porridge lover.
Yeah.
I bet you they've got a good rhubarb porridge, actually.
Oh, they do. I'll need to check them out. It sounds amazing.
Yeah, so we've got the lovely guys from Hatta Cafe coming in next Monday at 8. And I'm going to be handing the cooker over to them again, and they're going to be showing us how to make one of their awesome porridges. So I've put in a request there's 2 of my faves. I think I've had pretty much they do a rotation of different porridges. I think I've eaten all of them now. So I've put in a request for either caramelized banana, which is amazing, or lemon curd with blue blackberries, I think, and they're both just awesome. So let me know which one you want them to make next week, and we'll have them on. So balance, we're going from savoury to sweet. No, sweet again. Is porridge 8 o'clock's probably not porridge o'clock, but I do believe porridge can be an awesome dessert too. Or just watch along and get some tips for the morning. All right. Well, thanks very much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for
It's been
showing
an absolute
me
pleasure.
another great recipe. And it's been really nice to come into the kitchen and see it from a different side. So
Where it all
much.
happens.
I know, it's really good.
All right, thanks guys. Thanks Jojo. See you all soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.